Welcome to the Automation Hangout podcast, where we explore the latest trends and insights in automation and software testing. Today, we will be discussing about software composition analysis and its importance in software development world. To get started, let us see what SCA is and why it's important for organizations to implement it.
Sure, SCA is the process of analyzing the software components used in applications and systems to ensure that they are licensed, secure, up-to-date, and compliant with applicable policies. It's important for organizations to implement SCA to protect their digital assets against legal risks and security threats.
That makes sense. How does SCA differ from traditional vulnerability scanning and testing?
Traditional vulnerability scanning and testing focus on identifying security vulnerabilities in software. SCA goes beyond that by allowing teams to easily track open source components across an organization's software. It rapidly identifies potential liabilities by scanning the code, binaries, repositories, and package managers for information about known vulnerabilities in open source packages, as well as licensing details, code entitlements, and origin sources.
That's interesting. What are some common challenges associated with implementing an SCA program?
Some of the common challenges include identifying third-party components in proprietary code, determining security risk and license compliance requirements, integrating SCA results into other processes such as DevOps pipelines, and staying up to date on changes to open-source libraries.
Those are some important challenges to consider. When looking for an SCA tool, what are some key features that organizations should consider?
When you're on the hunt for an SCA tool, there are a few key things you want to look for to ensure you get the best bang for your buck. Make sure the tool can scan both open source and commercial software, so you don't miss anything. It's also important to find a tool that can quickly identify components and dependencies. You don't want to waste your time waiting around for scans to complete. Another important feature to consider is the capability to track code lifecycles and release statuses, so you can stay on top of updates and changes. Finally, check to see if the tool supports different programming languages, as that could be a deal breaker for some organizations.
That's an important consideration. How can SCA help with compliance and regulatory requirements?
SCA tools are pretty handy when it comes to complying with the laws and regulations. They can help you identify all the open source software components used in your code and create reports that show you the copyright, warranty, and indemnification obligations of code used. Plus, SCA tools can provide you with detailed security analytics to check for any possible vulnerabilities in your codebase. Not to mention, using an SCA tool is a great way to ensure that you're not infringing on anyone else's licenses or copyrights. So, it's definitely worth considering if you want to make sure your code is up to scratch.
That's great to know. Can you talk about the role of SCA in DevOps pipelines?
SCA is an important part of the DevOps process and pipelines. It helps to identify any potential software security vulnerabilities associated with open source and third-party code and applications, allowing developers to fix these flaws before they are released into production. SCA also accelerates speed to market through automation and streamlining of the patching process, helping to reduce development costs by eliminating manual debugging and fixing tasks.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Automation Hangout podcast. We hope you enjoyed our conversation on the importance of software composition analysis and its impact on the software development lifecycle. If you found this episode valuable, please consider sharing it with your friends and colleagues who may also benefit from this information. And don't forget to subscribe to the Automation Hangout podcast to stay up to date on future episodes. Thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to bringing you more insights and expert guests in the future.